Nelson University Center, the first year. I'm your host for this program, George Millar. With me in the studio is David Hugget, admissions coordinator for Nelson University Center. Nelson University Center opened its doors for students in their own courses in September of last year. David, what exactly are the things that have happened in the 8 months or so since then?
Well, the most exciting thing, of course, is that there are students in our own classrooms being taught by our own instructors, studying our own courses in the basic liberal arts. And since September, when we started, we had about 20 students enrolled, and we've since gone up to 40.
Okay. You say our own students, our own classes, our own instructors. I take it that means there was something else before that time.
Yes, before that we offered courses in conjunction with Eastern Washington University. And this was mainly for mature students who already had several years of university, and it allowed them to finish their degrees without having to leave town. And there were several students who also completed degrees through Gonzaga University. But in May last year, Eastern Washington suggested that if we wanted to present our own courses, that they would accept them, they examine them, examine the credentials of the faculty, and they gave us a go-ahead with basically accepted our courses for purposes of transfer.
All right. We'll come back to that in just a moment. The courses that people were taking with Eastern Washington, people coming to this campus, is that a thing of the past now that we have our own operation here?
No, that's still an important part of our function, our operation, and that's something we want to continue and possibly expand.
Good. All right, back to our own students. You say that they can transfer to Eastern Washington. So presumably all courses taught at NUC have credibility then at Eastern Washington. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. They have, they're transferable to Eastern Washington, and they're also transferable to Mont St. Vincent University in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And Mont St. Vincent accepted our courses for transfer on a course-by-course basis in August last year as we were enrolling students for our first semester. So it was quite a boost. Mont St. Vincent was the first university, Canadian university, to recognize us.
All right. We'll be taking a look at some footage of students in the classroom, hearing from them their own opinions and feelings about NUC a little later. But what sorts of courses were taught?
Well, there are basic core courses in the liberal arts, and that was English and philosophy, history, psychology, mathematics, sociology, courses that give you the basic building blocks towards our eventual goal, which is to examine our world in more detail and through such things as peace studies and environmental studies. And there was also one course I should mention, which is women's studies, which was the first of our interdisciplinary subjects, which draws from sociology and psychology and history in order to examine issues pertinent to women in our society.
All right. Now, the people who enroll in these courses, would they be looking for a degree in some specialized area? Or you say it's liberal arts. Are they primarily people who are full-time and prepared to take a liberal arts education and then perhaps move into a specialization?
That's the basic idea, is that a general liberal arts education creates a person who is resourceful and is able to meet a challenge. I guess part of our philosophy is that it's one thing to specialize later in the student's career, but first they should have a grasp of, a broader grasp. For example, I suppose You know, in my own case, when I was a student, I was interested strictly in literature, and I came out of my education fairly ignorant of science and mathematics. Whereas we feel in the world today, with the technological changes and the industrial processes that affect our communities, now it's really important for students to be introduced to sciences as well as to the humanities, the English and the languages, and the, you know, and then introduce the social sciences. And you know, there are some. It's an indirect way of going around about something that could well be practical in the end, in that a lot of corporations, I believe the Bank of Montreal being one, have discovered that students who've been too strictly specialized too early tend to be kind of locked into a system and not as resourceful when they're confronted with change.
All right, so what you're really saying is that business people have discovered that specialization after high school even is coming too soon, that there needs to be a broadening of information first and then perhaps some specialization in a postgraduate program perhaps, or a secondary diploma or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a trend in our society. I don't think it's just business that is discovering that. I think the students themselves are discovering, most of them have an interest in the environment or ecology, and in order to understand what's going on in that complex field, you have to have a working knowledge of chemistry, biology. You have to know how to express yourself, so you have to be able to write and read and speak. And
how would you answer my generation's comeback, though, which is it's fine to be concerned about the environment, but knowledge about the environment isn't going to pay everybody? How do you answer that?
Yeah, you have me a little bit off balance here, George.
The concern apparently is education should be useful. It should lead to job training, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
now, to some extent, we've already shown that that isn't necessarily so. But is there more that you can say to the parent of a student who might say, yeah, the student wants to come, but hey, you guys, you're not into practical things enough?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a misconception, in that the purpose of the liberal arts is to awaken people's minds and to stimulate them, and to create a spirit that they're not afraid really to look at the world and to examine it critically. And I think in the end it has a very practical effect, which is to create a good citizen,
okay,
somebody who can function in this world. And I think we're given that, I'm sure you've had this experience in your life, that skills that you thought were going to last you for your lifetime have evaporated.
Yes.
And you've had to make career changes. And for younger people, people coming into their 20s, coming out of high school, they can expect to make 5 major career changes in their working lifetime. So what that requires is a very adaptable, flexible person who understands change.
Okay. Mom and Dad are sitting by the TV and they're saying, all right, you've convinced me. What will it cost me if I send my son or daughter to Nelson University Center?
Well, assuming your son or daughter is living at home, which is obviously a benefit. If you're not sending your son or your daughter down to the coast to live in a big city where you have those urban costs as well of transportation and so on, the basic cost, the tuition cost, is $150 per course per semester. And there's also a $50 application for admission fee. A full course load is the conventional course load is 5 courses, so that's $750 per semester, or $1,500 a year.
Okay.
And then of course there are your textbook costs and your laboratory costs and nominal fees on top of that.
All right. How would that 1,500 or so compare with the universities at the coast?
It's comparable to the universities on the coast. Their tuition fees are about the same as ours.
All right. We'll maybe get into a little bit of the funding aspect of that in a later portion of the show. For those people who are still working, don't want to go the NUC course route, but have said, well, this Eastern Washington thing for people who want to stay employed and so on sounds useful. What would they be looking at in costs for courses?
The costs vary for that. I would have to, frankly, refer to that because but I believe they're around $250 US, and there's a $50 application fee as well to Eastern Washington.
All right. And they would be into a program that would lead to acceptable transfer to anywhere in Canada, I presume, with the Eastern Washington degree. Now, as far as NUC is concerned, you mentioned transferability to Eastern Washington and to the East Coast to Mount St. Vincent. What's happening in terms of relating to the universities at the coast here in BC?
Well, that's a process of negotiation which has been undertaken by our president, Pat Murphy, and by the CURS board, which is our city-sponsored nonprofit society, which is our, I guess, our guardian or umbrella agency. And they're actively negotiating for transferability, not just to the coast, but to other universities. There's one element here that I'd like to point out, and that is that even when formal agreements of transfer exist, that's no guarantee that students are automatically accepted. It still comes down to individual merit, you know, especially at a time when a lot of universities are capping their enrollment, which means that their facilities are crowded, they're turning students away. They can afford to take the, I guess, I wouldn't say the cream of the crop, but they can be very choosy about who they admit into their programs. So, you know, an NUC student right now could apply to any other university on the basis of their own academic merit with the possibility of being accepted. Okay,
that probably is the other thing that mom and dad are wanting to hear. If son or daughter go to Nelson University Center and for whatever reason choose to not remain there, can they, without going right across Canada or to the States, find a home at the universities on the coast? And I think you've answered the question. It appears that on a course-by-course basis, they will be considered.
They will be considered. It's very difficult to predict what will happen. I mean, we exist in a political environment that we have very little direct control of. There is you know, the whole issue of university education and public funding is the whole question is being re-examined in BC, and it's very difficult to predict what will happen.
All right. One of the things that is going to happen in the near future is some kind of fundraising. And after we take a break to look at a Nelson University Center commercial, we'd like to come back to discuss that.
It's small.
It's personal.
It offers a broad-based, integrated approach to the liberal arts.
It's a good education.
And it's a Nelson.
It's the kind of university I'm looking for.
Nelson University Center. We're small, integrated, personal, and that makes all the difference. Register now for next fall at the Nelson University Center. Call or write for more information.
we're back. I'm George Millar. With me is David Hugget, Admissions Coordinator of Nelson University Center. And let's move on now, David, to potential ways of seeing funding for Nelson University Center increase.
Okay, with the funding at present, the city has made for this last year has made an operating grant to Nelson University Center of about $20,000. We also have donations from corporations and from individuals. We have a number of bursaries and there's a scholarship in the works. The bursaries are provided by organizations like the IODE, the Rotary International, and we're dependent, again, tuition helps to pay the faculty, so if we can enroll more students and we can bring our faculty up to a better level of remuneration. But we're also looking at a major community fundraising campaign throughout the spring in Nelson in order to establish that the people of Nelson support the Nelson University Center. They want a university here, and we have a number of events planned, throughout April, especially.
Okay. One of them is perhaps bigger than some of the others. Perhaps you could tell us about that one.
Well, the big event is a concert, a benefit concert at the Capitol Theatre on April 24th. And this is hosted by George Zuckerman. He'll be bringing several friends with him they're actually very cosmopolitan people. I should explain that George Zuckerman has taken an unusual instrument, the bassoon, and he's been described as the Pablo Casals of the bassoon. And critics have said that he has taken the bassoon from the penal servitude in the back ranks of the symphony orchestra and made it part of the solo repertoire. And one of the classic pieces is a Mozart concerto, I believe. And Mr. Zuckerman was born in Great Britain. He played with the Tel Aviv Philharmonic in Israel. He's played in China, Japan, the Soviet Union, all over Europe. And he's very highly regarded.
He's also well known in Nelson, I understand.
Apparently he's quite popular. He's been here before and he's played to enthusiastic audiences. So
Founder of the Overture Concerts at one time, I believe.
Yes. You probably know more about that than I do, George.
I think that's correct at any rate. At least he was involved in it.
I think you're right, yes.
Yeah.
So, just from my own experience, I didn't know much about the bassoon, but, I think we'll all be in for a very pleasant evening on April 24th. That's at 8 p.m. at the Capitol Theatre. It is a benefit concert. The tickets are $15 and $10 for low income.
All right. And so we'll be able to experience an unusual solo instrument at that time.
Yes, he'll be accompanied also.
Oh, of course, there will be others there.
Yeah.
But it'll be, for some at least, an unusual experience, although for many around Nelson, they've heard Mr. Zuckerman before and will appreciate his talent already. We're going to take a brief break for another NUC commercial, and then we'll be back.
University can be the most important time in your life. Nelson University Center can give you that time and help you make the most of it. NUC is a small, private university, a place where students and teachers know each other by name, where learning isn't restricted to the classroom environment. NUC attracts both professors and students committed to personal growth and intellectual challenge through a broad-based, integrated liberal arts program. Nelson University Center may not be for everybody, but it might be just the right place for you. Register now for next fall at the Nelson University Center.
Well, after many years of professional life, I was looking forward on retiring to a university to pick up some of the subjects that I never had time but was always interested in. And so I was very happy when NUC opened up and I could start exploring some of the areas that I was interested in. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it a lot. And the teachers have been excellent. The classes are small. We can talk and discuss, and it's a great learning experience. And I hope I can keep on for quite a few years yet.
So for me, being here, it's a great entertainment besides the learning, because I had an accident 20 years ago and I couldn't finish my university studies. So I just like the atmosphere. I like the atmosphere that being in school again. And on the other hand, I would love to help to keep open the university for my 3 children.
Well, I took the Introduction to Western Philosophy here at Nelson University Center. And I found the course excellent because the instructor is Martin Brown, Professor Martin Brown. He's an excellent scholar. The class is small, intimate, and I really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed the fact I could go from home or work to class in 5 minutes and come home again. That's a tremendous asset for me to be able to take a university level course here in Nelson instead of having to drive 400 miles or 500 miles and stay in a different city. That's a fantastic asset to have.
I took 3 courses each semester at NUC, the fall semester and the winter semester. And first semester I took Women's Studies with Crystal Hughes and Psychology with Monica Vogler and Introduction to Philosophy with Martin Brown. And the second semester I took History 301 with Arthur Barch, History of the Enlightenment, the second part of philosophy and psychology. And I came to NUC because Selkirk College, I had attended Selkirk College for 2 years before attending NUC, and I had exhausted all the options it had for me, definitely, especially because I am interested in liberal arts, and Selkirk is quite a science-oriented institution and very goal-oriented. And I wasn't quite sure what to do yet, and the money factor of going to the coast was a big factor, and I wasn't quite prepared to borrow $10,000 to go away yet. So I looked in NUC and saw a brochure, and I knew the instructors already, most of them, and was very interested in what they had to offer. And I didn't really know what to expect, and what I found were small classes, but an amazing experience, because the teachers were so interested in the students and so interested in making the whole program work. And
I personally feel the University Center in Nelson be very essential. First, for lots of young people who financially couldn't afford it, maybe go to university someplace farther, like to Coast or maybe to Calgary. Financially be much cheaper living at home or in surrounded area, who is quite much big difference than on a coast, rent-wise and food-wise and transportation-wise. One other thing, would do lots for a town, for an influx of young people who naturally would bring us business-wise too. They would live here, they have to buy something, participate in city, well, I presume would do lots of good.
Well, I like the university because I like learning. I like to know what's going on and why. And I think an education is good for everyone. But the real reason I'm here is to help the numbers out to learn. But the basic reason is because I want our young people to have an education that they can afford and don't spend hundreds of dollars being housed in Vancouver. I feel that this town has a lot to offer both socially in skiing and water sports. It's a beautiful area, conducive to learning and giving you the peace and opportunity to think. There's not too much going on, either in traffic or too much social, or how shall I say, the froth of life. You've got time to think.
Back with David Hugget, Admissions Coordinator of Nelson University Center. David, what's ahead for summer program and into the fall?
Well, we're looking forward to having Dr. E. Margaret Fulton here in July, I believe, to teach a Women in Literature course. And perhaps people in Nelson will remember that Dr. Fulton came to our inauguration in September. She delivered an address to our opening banquet, and she's an internationally recognized academic. Her field was English literature, and she has developed a Women in Literature course, which I think we've had a very good response to so far. There's a lot of inquiries for that. And we also have a math for teachers and possibly sociology, and we'll be confirming these courses and other courses as we get closer to the end of our present semester.
All right. Now, without going into detail about the fall, what exactly are you planning to build for the next 3 years? What would be the cap by the time 3 more years have completed?
Well, the goal for our students will be a bachelor degree in the liberal arts and science, and that's a 4-year program. There are a number of basic courses that are required for students who are seeking a degree. And in addition, we like to keep our classes open just for general interest, for people who want to take our courses just for their own purposes, not necessarily for credit. You can audit a course, which is a very reasonable winter's pastime or entertainment. And it's a very stimulating environment.
Okay. This has been Nelson University Center, the first year and beyond. With me, David Hugget, Admissions Coordinator. Thanks for joining me, David.
Thanks, George.
I'm George Millar for Shaw Cable. Thanks for watching.